You are now live with Dylan Kimlin.
Hello everyone, this is Dylan Kimlin here with my 2025 Australian Pickleball review. If you are someone that's watched my content for a while, you know that I do this most years, where I go back and take a look at all of the major news that would have occurred across our space and just look at things that we can improve on, things that I thought we did really well, and I give out some quirky awards too. Now, before I dive into it, if you enjoy the content, please like, share, and subscribe, as well as follow me on social media. This is a video that I do enjoy doing. I'm someone who very much believes in reflective practice. I do it for pretty much all of my business decisions, as well as the sports I follow. So for pickleball, taking a sit back and thinking about what occurred, how crazy this year was, and just coming to terms with it. I think we all sometimes just need to sit down and relax, I won't be on camera for this one. This is just going to be me talking, and you at home, please let me know if you agree with these points, if you disagree with them. It's conversation, and I feel that we need to have continued discussion within the Australian pickleball scene. Unfortunately, this year, we saw more and more media groups slowly dissolve or walk away from the sport entirely, and it's a real shame. I really want, and I'm always promoting people that want to get into this space and get into the social media, get into commentary. Let your voices be known. Let me know how you feel in the comments about this particular video. This will be my last video for the year, and I will dive back into it more in January in 2026. So without further ado, we're going to kick off with the 2025 major news. Now, I'll break this up into different pieces, I suppose. But the main one I want to start with is that with the pro leagues. Okay, what happened with our pros? What happened with the leagues to get us underway? Now, obviously, in Australia, we have two, dominating leagues in the NPL and the MLPA, PPAA formats. To kick us off with the NPL, the year started off absolute blockbuster. Like at the end of 2024, there was sort of the PWR announcement, which they were a major Indian power group, and the league wars have been going on for a couple of years now. Now, I'm not someone who really talks about the league wars much. I know it affects the players a lot more than it affects me, but long story short, players with their contracts determine that they can only play in one league or the other. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. I think that players should be able to play everything. Players don't earn enough money as is. Let them have as many opportunities as possible. I'm a firm believer in a rising tide raises all ships. But anyway, the PWR announcement was made, and lo and behold, the NPL got several major players to sign to their league. I think the PWR announcement probably swayed this a little bit. And it's an interesting one, the PWR space. Like, I commentated a couple of the events over the year. The NPL did all the major work regarding these events. And from my understanding, it's just slowly dissolved. There's probably stuff going on behind the scenes, but as we can see at the bottom here, there is the Global Sports Initiative. That seems to be the new thing for the NPL. So whatever may have happened with the PWR, there are rumors of a legal thing happening, but as these are rumors, I'm not going to delve into it because, I tried my best to just deal with facts. So following that, they had their initial draft, which the NPL typically just do their drafts via a social media method. The captains all sit on a call, players are selected straight into the season. They don't muck around with it. It's straight to the point. The initial drafts for the first season, there were some teams that looked really strong. I thought the Opals looked really strong from Queensland. I thought the Brumbies looked really strong from Queensland. And later on, we discovered that the Outback were incredibly strong for the first season this year. Following that in New South Wales, with the inclusion of players like Michaela Hayat, Selena Taruya, Kyle Stoker sort of emerging as a superstar, New South Wales looked very interesting. I do believe that the New South Wales space will continue to get better, and we saw that this at the end of this year as well. For the Victorian space, it was sort of the last hurrah for Tom Evans and Helena Spirides. Their announcement was made that they were heading to the US, and it was very positive for Victoria. I think the final season this year for Victoria was a little bit rough, but I know they have a developing space. They have so many players in the academy that are coming up, and I do think the future is positive for Victorian pickleball regarding the NPL. So, massive news here for NPL was that they had their big director announcement with Steve Wood announced as joining their board. Now, he is the former Tennis Australia CEO, and it was announced this last weekend during Kooyong that I was commentating that they effectively had a joint partnership with TA going forward. Now, we haven't fully found out exactly what that entails. My understanding, and I was told this from the NPL guys, was that there is still a working relationship with Pickleball Australia. Pickleball Australia were aware of this joint arrangement, and from all accounts, hopefully it's a positive thing. TA and PA potentially working together. I know our referees were a little bit concerned, like, oh boy, are we going to get in trouble for working this event? Who knows what's going to happen? But the NPL seems to be more open to working with TA than Major League and PPA, for example. Following that, so Evans and Spirides were the first Australians announced to the US. Kind of ironic for me personally in that, at the start of the year, Major League was definitely pushing with the APO that, you really want to get on board with this if you want aspirations of playing and working in America, for it to be NPL players that went to America first anyway. Obviously, Amelia Schmidt's over there playing with the APP, but she sort of did it her own way. Now, obviously, the more opportunities for players to go overseas, I think, is a great thing. But NPL have made they don't hide it. They talk to the PPA in America. They actively try to help promote their players to the American scene. And then, lo and behold, the Global Sports Initiative occurred, which was massive. And ironically, it's very similar to what happened with the PWR at the start of this year or the end of 2024, is that now they have this big major group alignment with the likes of the APP, with Global Sports in India, as well as, the English Open and groups from Japan. It's a massive group that effectively want to try and create a functioning international, it's not an international body, but they're like a business partnership to have players to be able to play all around the world, which I think is amazing. I'm absolutely tired of seeing players not being able to play in tournaments because of these stupid contracts. I just think players should be able to play wherever they want to and potentially try to make a revenue from that as well. So leading into that, we then had MLPA, PPA Australia. I commentated and broadcasted a couple of their events at the start. I slowly pulled away from them, just disagreements on pay. And as such, I'll try to be neutral with these guys, but I'm pretty so-so with some of their decisions as of late. But to kick it off, they did have a very positive start, and that was the Australian Pickleball Open, which is run by PPA America. The PPA Australia team, I was talking very closely to Tim Joyner, who's now the CEO of PPA. He effectively led us through that whole process, and then, lo and behold, became the CEO. Now, the APO was a first for Australian pickleball in that we had a bunch of the pros from America come over. Like, I know Tyson McGuffin was loved by the crowds here. We had people like Viv Glosman, Lacey Schneeman, Tyra Hurricane Black, just to name a few. We had some absolute bona fide superstars, Irvine, Tardio, these big names coming to play on our courts and go toe-to-toe with our players. Across the board, a generally good experience for the players that I understood. As a staff member, we were just ran into the ground, but hopefully we delivered a top quality product for the viewer at home. We had several viral moments. I know the broadcasters, commentators did their best to try and entertain the viewers. And from all accounts, the American audience seemed to really enjoy listening to Australian commentary. So that's very positive. I personally received a ton of positive messages from people that I've never even met. They were just happy to see a different perspective on pickleball. Their draft, the initial MLPA draft, I did with Adam Hall from Slam Jam. We did a live reaction sort of thing. Geez, I miss the Slam Jam guys. They, on a side note, they, really took it to Major League at the end of, or not the end of the year, but middle of the year. Kind of got burnt out by the players, from my understanding. They went into bat for the players, and then the players didn't go into bat for them. And now Adam's they're just living their best life. Like a bunch of them are over in Bali, Slam Jam boys, having a good time. And from my understanding, they've quietly just walked away from pickleball. And it's a real bummer, media within pickleball we continually try to put ourselves on a pedestal to speak about the sport we all love, but sometimes it can be really draining, really tough. And I don't know how else to put it. Like, it's a lot of effort for very minimal response. Like, we don't get much people talking about it. All we want to do is promote the players, promote the clubs, promote the teams. And sometimes, I do feel in Slam Jam's case, they tried their best to actually promote the players in a healthy manner. And unfortunately, the machine won in this instance. So anyway, I was doing the draft with Adam, and the first thing we noticed was there was a lot of international players picked over domestic players. Now, you could make I'm actually kind of neutral on this. I'm going to be honest with you all. For me, if top quality players are available, you're going to pick them. At the end of the day, for the captains, this is a money-making exercise. It's their revenue. Why would pro players not pick the best players available if it increases their chances of winning? Like, at the end of the day, this is what it's about, is winning. So I didn't really have a problem with the international players getting picked, but I do know that there was a lot of discourse regarding this. A lot of people were unhappy, and it is what it is. It'll be very interesting to see whether Major League changes any of their sort of rules leading into 2026. In the middle of the year, they decided to, not in the middle of the year, but, a couple of months ago, they decided to make a dramatic schedule change, which I actually have a big problem with. When you do your sanctioned tournaments at the start of the year, you apply to Pickleball Australia for a certain time slot to effectively, get your time approved if you want a sanctioned event. Now, this is why a lot of players who are uneducated, they will complain about timing of events, especially groups that will try and coexist with other tournaments. They don't understand that Pickleball Australia effectively determine when their sanctioned event can occur. And that's where venues come into play as well. So you might have a venue available at May, for example, but Pickleball Australia says, no, you can't because we have a state championship on at the same weekend. And this is the bounce back and forth between tournament directors, Pickleball Australia, and the state bodies is very frequent. Now, the leagues, to my understanding, get a priority over everyone else. And then it's sort of this, the nationals and state champs get the top priority. Then it's like the leagues and then everyone else relevant to your tier. Now, for PPA and MLP in the middle of the year to just absolutely scrap all of that and just change all the dates, to me is probably the biggest travesty of 2025. Pickleball Australia just let it happen. Like, what are we doing? There's no point of a sanctioned tournament, effectively, if they can just change. What's to stop them doing again? At the end of the day, they obviously thought that a change was more beneficial for their business and decided to do it and got away with it. Like, actual respect to them for doing it, because PA clearly didn't try to enforce their own sanctioning. Anyway, I could talk a lot about that, but I think there were a lot of disgruntled tournament directors around the country that if they tried to do that, there would have been heavy sanctions for their tournament or their club. So, rules for thee and rules for me apply here. Now, there was the Pickler announcement. That is effectively PPA's venue partner, I suppose. They, just made an announcement. I don't know if they've actually put shovels in the ground yet. Time will tell if anything actually happens there. But the reason why I'm bringing that up first and not the CEO change is because I feel that, from my understanding, is directly relevant. So the PPA Australia had a CEO change, which is gigantic news from a pro front. They had Adam Thompson walk away. I don't know what the actual if he was dismissed, if he was walked away, whatever happened, he's not there anymore. And Tim Joyner, who was the CFO, is now the CEO. I liked him. I think he's a great guy. So for me, I liked Adam as well. So whatever happens, I just hope it's positive for the players. That's all I care about at the end of the day. So it is rumoured that Adam will be coming on as the CEO of Pickler. That is to be determined. That's hearsay at this point. Haven't seen if that's the case or not. All right, so then we lead into the Masters space, which, boy. Major League have a Challenger and a Masters division. I personally, and this is me just being honest with you all, the end half of the year, I was significantly more interested in the Challenger and Masters spaces. I just was. I tried to get behind the premier events, but it's just hard to cheer for teams that I just don't know half the players, if I'm being honest with you. Whereas the Challenger and the Masters, I've covered those players for years now. I know their stories, I know their backgrounds, and I just want to see how they go. That's more or less it. The Masters space in MLPA was probably the most spicy, I guess, division to play in this year. We had multiple altercations break out across multiple events. Some of them were just horrible. There's no other way of putting it. And I just hope that doesn't occur again in events to come. Across the board, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the players know what they've been through, what they've done, and across, I just think, I continually find myself being the most mature person in the room, but I'm probably one of the younger people in the room, and it just continually blows me away. Like, you're supposed to get wisdom as you get older, and yet we see people acting petulant on the pickleball court. I have so much time for the Master Space. I've been promoting it for years. This is just not pickleball. And hopefully the Master Space gets back to being what it was before this all occurred. To round it all out for a positive ending for the PPA MLPA, Lucas Pascoe got announced to the US. So makes him the first PPA Australia player to go to the PPA. Congratulations, Lucas. I've always had a lot of time for him. I think he's an absolute. He's like the Australian Gabe Tardio. That's how I see him. I wish him nothing but the best in his endeavours to come. Okay, so that's the Pro Leagues news. I'm going to have to be really careful in not making this a 2-hour-long video. And I've probably missed bits and bobs as we go along. One thing I do want to touch on regarding Major League is that I made a prediction at the start of the year or not the start of the year, but the middle of the year, that there will be a pro player reset. I think, and I will link my video up here where you're watching. It's coming true, as I thought it would. The Major League just announced as of this week that there is or rather last week, now that I'm releasing this a week ahead, there will be less events for their year to come. Now, I don't think this is a bad thing. I did say that in that video. I just think it's inevitable. And if you are a pro player looking to get into this space, you've got to consider that. I said that players would go to international events more. It's exactly what occurred. It's just a matter of that. This is just the grim reality of our sport right now. We're not ready as of yet. So we also saw pros in America who went to play in other events get effectively their contracts terminated. Now, if they did breach their contracts, fair enough. That is you sign a contract, can't break it. But I kind of have a problem with leagues trying to control our players. I think leagues, it's just gross. Let the players play. We're not there yet. There's not enough money to justify locking someone in. If you're earning 150K plus, fair enough. But I don't know. There wouldn't be many players that are earning that, especially here in Australia. So hopefully this sort of I just think there needs to be changes made. And yeah, the reset has already begun. Anyway, international pickleball. So this year was pretty gigantic from an international space. So we started off with the rise of the Indian, Chinese and Vietnamese pickleball spaces. Philippines and Malaysia are also definitely in that conversation. They are huge. They are genuine powerhouses. And in my pro video reset, I did discuss that there would be money that is thrown around that we just can't even compete with. And it is true. In Vietnam, they can create courts in a blink of an eye with no council regulation, with no real concern for the problems we would have here in Australia or in New Zealand. So as such, they can build these superstructures in like minimal time. And as such, they can build and create awesome tournaments for our players to go across, play for a heap of money in nice hotels. You get the gist. Our pros would be silly to not consider this, and that's why there's so many of them going over to play internationally. And I love it. I'm very happy to see a market forming that isn't America, and it's close to us. It gives our players and our spectators a chance to go and get involved in these amazing events. Yeah, I just think it's a good thing. PPA Asia really sort of kicked off this year. Once again, this, I see a lot of similarities to PPA Australia. And once again, I just hope our players are treated fairly and that all get given a great opportunity. I've watched quite a few of the tournaments. The only tiny nitpick I would have is that either the commentators don't speak English, which is totally fair, by the way, because they're in other countries. But the Western commentators they do get have an incredible bias towards the American players. It just baffles me. Like, guys, there's other countries that play this sport too. It's gross. But well done to PPA Asia. Hopefully they had a profitable first year, and hopefully they continue to deliver excellence for our players, and I hope that our players have a good time as well. New Zealand Pickleball continues to get bigger. I had the pleasure of commentating in several NZ events this year, and I will be going to the Wellington Pickleball Cup in February, sorry. I love the NZ pickleball space. I have so much time for it. Like I talked about Major League earlier, it's made very clear to me that the NZ space don't really care about the premier teams in MLP, but they love the challengers and they love the Masters side. And, they're, 3.0 to 4.0 players are in abundance in New Zealand. Their Masters players are elite. My goodness, they have so many good Masters players. So NZ, their viewership numbers, and I can tell you this because I worked across both the APC and the NZ Open. In 3 days, the New Zealand Open got far more viewership than the entire APC did. They are crazy about pickleball. They genuinely love the sport. They want to support their communities, and I'm all for it. Anything I can do to promote New Zealand pickleball, New Zealand players, I will do everything I can. I think it is a beautiful community, and it's just nice. It's just a nice group to be sort of a part of. Then we had IPPA, so the para community effectively formed their first international pickleball body, I guess. I've been covering para events. I'm probably besides someone who's in the para community, I'm probably the biggest advocate for para, outside of the sport, outside of the community. I am constantly promoting their events. I'm constantly covering their players. And unfortunately, I'm going to be blunt here. I do feel the PA just doesn't care about para. Like it's not a priority for them. They have, and I'm not dissing them here. They do have a lot to worry about, but para to me at this point in time, they just don't. It's just not a concern. So for the IPPA to be formed, that's very positive. Hopefully, I think there's a very real possibility that pickleball becomes a Paralympic sport before it becomes an Olympic sport. I don't know what the conditions are there if that's possible, but hopefully the para community continues to build here in Australia. So we had the World Pickleball Cup occur, which was, like I spoke in length to Hercilio from the WPC group, and sound like a beautiful community. They try to effectively create something that isn't super corporate-y. That's the vibe I've gotten. And Australia, after I had a pretty lengthy chat with PA, thankfully they, we managed to submit a team. Now, it was a little bit controversial in that, I think the group picking the side was just a train wreck. That's the selection panel was, oh my goodness, I won't. But on top of that, it was very rushed. They announced that they had plans to submit a side, and then within like a month or 2 months, the side itself went to America. I just think it's too quick. They should be doing their World Pickleball Cup selections in like February at the latest. But unfortunately, PA tend to take their time with these things. So very positive for Australian Pickleball. I thought the uniforms looked cool. And the teams that were selected, by the way, I didn't really have a problem with. I mean, some of the players that didn't get picked to me it's a travesty, but, that's on the selection panel. And I've already said I thought it was a train wreck. So it is what it is. So, but hopefully for next year, the World Cup side continues to go. Hopefully, PA just didn't use this as a guinea pig opportunity. And to the players that went, hopefully they had a good time. Because at the end of the day, I'll keep parroting it, but all I want is what's best for our players. Following that, we then had the GPF, WPF. Big announcement. I did an entire video on it. Basically, this is the building blocks to forming an international body that will help us get into the Olympics. That's the long and hold of it. It also will benefit with our NSO application for Pickleball Australia, but more to come on that. If you want to learn more about that particular piece, watch my video, which I will pop up here. Okay, let us keep going. Domestic pickleball news for 2025. So we had the paddle testing was announced from PA. I'm not too sure when it's actually coming into place. I'm sure it'll be sometime in 2026. We had quite a few spicy moments this year on the broadcast, I will be honest, in that players would complain about another player's paddle. Paddle was then approved, but there was so much ambiguity. It was just so vague a lot of the time with, is this paddle allowed? Is it not? What's the process here? Paddle testing is a good thing. We should have had it years ago. Hopefully they get it right. That's all we can ask for. But the rise of the Temu paddle was a big deal. We had so many tournaments. You would frequently see one of them either smashed or thrown on the side of a court or just completely discarded because players would either A, know that it was illegal and get caught and then break it, or B, not know it was illegal, get angry because they spent however much money on a paddle to be then told it wasn't allowed. I think there probably needs to be more paddle awareness across the board for our players that don't know, because at the end of the day, especially with Christmas around the corner, people will get given paddles and just not know any better. And for rec play, that's okay. But obviously tournaments, this is something we need to be aware of going into 2026. We had the very talked about PA design overall. Boy, I received a picture actually. When was it? It was ironically from the Slam Jam guys. Where was it? Victoria? It was actually the venue that we played APO in Victoria. The logo that PA went with is a near 1-for-1 replica. Kind of crazy. No doubt they would have spent stupid money on that, logo. But yeah, it is what it is. So they've gone with a new overhaul. I didn't think it was necessary personally, but if that's what they want to spend their money on or members' money on, so be it. And then we had APC. APC was, and to me, is always a special event. I've got a lot of time for APC. I always pencil it in. It was very big out at Pimpama and Gold Coast with, we had a bunch of courts. It was hot days. The village area wasn't very good. It was far away from the clubs, from the courts, but from all accounts, the players had a good time. And that's the main reason why we do these events. I think we saw some pretty special moments. The show court, just build a court. Like, just paint a court. We just need to stop using these mats. Just build a court and just paint it afterwards. That's we've done it now several times and it doesn't work. Just paint a court. Just do us all a favor and paint a court. Like, it's use a Dominator net or a Yola net or whatever you want to use. Just do that with a net, with a court, and then everyone in the country will be happy. The complaints we had about our court was not that they were very large. Let's put it that way. I lost my voice at this event. I worked tirelessly, as is standard, but we had a lot of people jump in the commentary booth, which was awesome. We had Chad come from America, which, we got some mixed responses on. I thought he did really well. He's obviously a pro, but there were quite a few people that were miffed that, PA spent this money on getting a elite level commentator from the States instead of paying referees or instead of sorting out appropriate places for our player village, for example. There were quite a few people that were miffed that the Masters players were stuck down a back end court, which it was like they were completely segregated. Now, I understand the difficulties for Pickleball Australia in that it's a huge tournament. They have to find courts somewhere. I still think that this signing of the 4-year deal with Gold Coast was a shocking decision because now we're seeing the problems with it, the ramifications of it. But overall, I think it was a good tournament. It's a gigantic number of people involved in said tournament, and for PA, it is a special moment. They should be, despite the grumpy comments, they should be pleased with their efforts. I'll say that. They did very well. The staff worked their tail off. The referees worked their tails off. Broadcast, we were so busy. But and across the board, media in general. It was a well-oiled machine across the board from all involved, and a big well done to all staff for that event. State champs this year were really good. I was privileged enough to do QPC, South Australia. Did I do any others? No, I don't think I did. Oh, Vic Open, obviously. So the events that I did do were incredible. And I heard a lot of positivity about the other ones as well. Unfortunately, I didn't do Tassie at the start of the year. I did do it the year before. And it was such a wonderful moment. I know Coco commentated Tassie and she said she had an absolute blast. For New South Wales, it just continues to get bigger and bigger. The New South Wales champs are just gigantic. And WA, I heard not too much about it. From memory, it was around the same time as APO. So that's a real shame that a league effectively getting priority here over a state champ. There is a discussion there, but hopefully WA has a good time of it in 2026. NT, my beloved NT, just continue to trundle along and continue to build their own path. And the other Territorians, ACT, had it on recently, and by all accounts, it was another great event. So state champs across the board just continue to be good. I just think they're good tournaments, and I'm going to be a little bit controversial here. It's because they don't focus on the pros. State champs are amazing because they focus on the 95%. They focus on everyone else. And it's a good time. Just simple as that. The Pro Reset, I've already mentioned it. The Pro Reset has started. We have evidence of it. It's happening. People can try and deny it. I wouldn't be banking my financial future on this deniability. I'd be looking into it very closely, but it has started. So, yep. The venue boom. So there's been a ton of venues pop up across Australia, especially in Victoria. So many new businesses starting. It's great to see more clubs getting involved with our wonderful sport. A lot of business ventures as well. Finally, this is a negative one, is duper delusion. So it's a term that I've come up with. I don't have a problem with duper, I might add. I don't have a problem with ranking systems. I don't have, and yeah, it's more what it does to the culture of the sport. So I've been to more tournaments than anyone else this year. I know that for a fact. I'm at one every weekend. And all I hear about is people talking about their duper. This player doesn't want to play with this player because if they lose, they might lose this amount of duper. This player doesn't want to verse this player, so they sandbag because they're going to lose this amount of duper. This player is a little bit cocky because they beat this player or they got 8 points on this player, so as such their duper will go up. I hear it every single tournament. It's like, guys, find a new topic to talk about. It does my head in. And I was a very high-level baseball player. I played and coached internationally. I understand competitive. You want to win. I understand it. Truly, I do. But I do think that duper is a negative, or not duper, but ranking systems in general just have such a negative impact on our sport. I did do a post on this about in the middle of the year, and it was met with overwhelming agreement. So many people are like, yeah, Dylan, this is just bad. Like, just it's all people talk about. I don't think the pros care. This is more for anyone like 5.0 and or under. It's just needs to change, but it won't. But it's just a negative trend that we are seeing in Australian pickleball at this point in time. Okay, the Dill Awards. So I do a particular part every review where I go through and provide pointless awards. But as someone that goes to just about every tournament, I cover just about every player, I feel that I have a pretty well-rounded point of view when it comes to what's happening in the Australian pickleball scene, to the point that professional businesses reach out for my opinion on what is happening in the Australian pickleball scene. Okay, so the Dill Awards are more or less just me giving my take. I'm still really disappointed that Pickleball Australia and the state bodies just don't do any awards. What is that? I know the leagues have their ranking points where there is a financial benefit. I'd still like to see like a junior of the year from our leagues, or para player, or coach or referee. Just some credit to the people involved in this sport. So anyway, here I am on my lonesome on this little hill of mine, trying to promote our players, doing the Dill Awards. Eventually, someone else will start doing awards, and I can stop doing this because then, it'll be done professionally and much better than me. But I cover a bunch of different topics. Let me know at home in the comments section. What do you think? Is this correct? Am I way off the mark? So be it, So, tournament of the year to get us started. For the pros, I had the APO from the PPA in America. As a staff member, it was rough, but what it meant for Australian pickleball was very, very positive. So it really put us on the map for starters, and it gave our spectators a chance to see what elite level American pickleball is like. I just think, for me, a lot of these decisions throughout the Dill Awards are on how did it change the space? How did it change? Was it had to be above and beyond. And for me, the Dill Award, for the Tournament of the Year for the pros, it was that. It was a legendary moment. It was the first APO that was huge. We had players from international superstars coming to our event, and the broadcast was amazing. We had just so many cool moments occur during this event, and I just think it had to be Tournament of the Year. Recently did the Cypic Australia MPL Invitational. That was also a legendary event in that it was one of the first of its kind. It was the first of its kind in that we did an event at Kooyong, which is just mind-boggling. I never would have thought we would be on such hallowed turf as Kooyong, but we did. And these are a lot of my decisions for the Dill Awards are where you can get involved with these legendary events or legendary things happen. You go above and beyond the normal. And I think the APO and Kooyong did that. Amateur event, easy. Gold Coast Grand Slam. Nothing came close. It was the first, I did a post on it, it was the first perfect tournament of the year. We expected absolute Armageddon from the rain. Didn't happen. We had perfect weather all weekend. We had, it was the first tournament that we used the Pickleball Brackets phone software, and it was so smooth. We had no issues whatsoever. So many players. I was thinking it was like 400, 500 players minimum, and everyone had a great time. The level of play was really high. We haven't even had a bunch of pros get involved, and they had a ball. Hybrid events popped off. It was just good. Like a really good tournament. And the Grand Slams, in my opinion, continue to be the best events across the country. So, tournaments of the year, there we go. Easy peasy. Couple of little shout outs. Yeppoon Pickleball Festival, as always, was incredible. It's one that I love going to. Northern Rivers Regional Rally was also so much fun. I had so much, it was just amazing. The community spirit of that event was just so good. Dingfest as well in Port Macquarie for the first tournament of the year was amazing. Wellington Pickleball Cup to me is a must go. If you are looking at doing a holiday, simply put it on your list. We had the Perth Grand Slam. Go and visit Perth for the first time and see the Perth community. Got to meet a whole bunch of wonderful people. Vic Open as well was, in my opinion, is probably, it's either that or QPC is the best state champ. Still to be determined. SA Champs was really fun this year too as well. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that and would love to do it again. QPC was amazing. The team worked their tail off for that event. And to me, QPC is up there with APC. So Queensland Pickleball Champs, it has so much legacy behind it. The team continually just goes above and beyond. So lots of good tournaments in 2025. All right, Dill Awards continue. Emerging Venue of the Year. Now, this one was a bit of a tricky one. I mentioned the venue boom earlier. And I'm denied about this. It's like, who do I go with this? But I do find the Pickleball Palace once again, if I go back to my original criteria with the awards, they've done something different. They now have venues in Victoria and Queensland. I know that the MPL have done that with the JAR, and they've got places in New South Wales, etc. But I was like, nah, the leagues get all the attention. We'll give it to someone else. Pickle Palace, well done. To Rowan and Shaz, I've known them since their Gold Coast days. For them to now be running two separate venues in pickleball, I tip my hat to them. It's a fantastic effort. Like, well done to you guys. And hopefully, you start to build something from this, ironically. But like, who knows where you guys go from here regarding venue development across Australia. From all accounts that I've heard, it's a great set of locations, and hopefully, you guys really start to how do I word it? Like you positively shape how other people do clubs going forward. My next my next award is a little bit of a controversial one. It's referee of the year. Now, whoever I pick here, there'll at least be five other people pissed off about it. Because a lot of the refs think they're the best ref in Australia. Sorry, guys, but that's true. I did a video on refs this year that got so much of a response. Oh my goodness. The amount of refs that have come up to me and thanked me at tournaments is, I can't even number it. I will always have the refs back. I will always promote the referees because they're all volunteers. And the ref of the year for me this year went to someone who did something that hadn't been done before. She was brave enough to go and work international events effectively by herself in a league where she was pioneering as a ref. Bilingual, covering separate, like refereeing to separate languages is just incredible. This person's been in the Australian pickleball scene for pretty much as long as I have and is a beautiful, like just well-loved individual across the space. It had to be An Huynh. Now, you at home might be like, who? Like, what are you talking about? An has done so many events over the years and went over and did the PPA Asia. So she was calling a lot of the big PPA Asia events. She did a couple of the events here in Australia, like PPA and MLP, etc. But to me, once again, she's done something that hasn't been done before. She's pioneered. As someone who pioneered the media and broadcast space in Australia, I can tell you, I have so much respect for people that do it. It is so hard to do. So well done, An. To me, I thought about this long and hard who I could go with. I just think you've done things that a lot of other people haven't really done. And to be able to do it in multiple languages is just crazy. So well done, An. You'll always have, my full respect for your endeavours in pickleball. For the Dill Awards, we will continue. Volunteer of the Year. Now, this one goes to an individual. Once again, Volunteer of the Year is really hard to pick because we have so many people that work their tail off. And I had to sit down and think about who has given so much time to the the voluntary space. Now, it's typically someone who a lot of you wouldn't even know. There's someone who's been in a president of a club. I've been on state committees. I've been on just subcommittees they are the people in the shadows that just quietly promote our game. You don't know who they are. They don't want, they definitely deserve appreciation, but they do it for the love of the game. They don't get paid. They work tireless amounts of hours for it. And I'll never forget a discussion I had with Jenna Murphy when she told me about receiving rewards. And more or less she said, Dylan, if you do this for appraisal, you're doing it for the wrong reason. I have to disagree with Jen. Like, honestly, if you are spending 20 plus hours a week on a sport and no one even thanks you for it, that's just disgusting. That's a bad culture in our sport. We should praise the people that are spending all of this time in our sport. I think the fact that we have no awards, we have no credit is given to these people that just do it for the love of the game. It goes against my morals. I just hate it. I think we need to really promote these people more than we promote the players, if I'm being dead honest with you. They are the ones that make the events happen. They're the ones that make the clubs happen. Where is the love for them? I honestly couldn't tell you right now who is on Pickleball New South Wales committee, who's on Pickleball Australia's committee. I don't have no idea. And I'm in the sport. I would have to actively go and search. But it gives you an idea that these volunteers are just not talked about. So for the Volunteer of the Year award for the Dill Awards, to me, this is probably the most important award out of all of them because there are so many people deserving. And I decided this year to give it to an individual who I saw firsthand how hard she works, but also I've seen the results of her efforts behind the scenes. So this individual is someone who started as a player, got into the administration side of it, and is now involved in the tournament space, actively builds and encourages things that you at home wouldn't even know she has had a hand in helping develop. It had to be Reiki. Now, I always butcher her last name. Sorry, Reiki. But to me, Reiki is easily the Volunteer of the Year. Now, Pickleball Queensland has a habit of developing these incredible women in our sport. So it started off with Jen Rammer-Murphy. She went on to become the president of Pickleball Australia and now the, General Secretary or some crazy title for the GPF. Michelle Jones was the secretary of PAQ. I don't know if she might still be the secretary of PAQ. Now has a role within PA, has been an incredible servant to the game for a long time. Tony Sarton was on PAQ and is now the director or the head of Pickleball Tournaments Australia. You got Kerry Gray, who was on PAQ. Recently was the tournament organizer for the Australian Pickleball Champs. Reiki is also someone who went through that PAQ fold and is now just doing exceptional work across the Australian pickleball scene. So she was heavily involved with the Queensland Pickleball Championships. I had the chance of working alongside her and just seeing the hard work she puts in. Like all those women I just mentioned deserve an award at some point. They're like the Mount Rushmore of Australian pickleball female edition. Like those ladies all deserve it mentioning. But once again, for some bizarre reason, we don't mention people in Australian pickleball. It just does my head in. Well done, Reiki. I look forward to hopefully doing more events with you in 2026. You are an unsung hero, and yeah, you deserve your flowers. Hopefully I'll get your last name right, or by the end of next year. We'll see. Following on, Media Talent of the Year. Ooh. I'm probably the most qualified person in the country to give this award. Now, it's a tricky one. I don't think that there will ever be credit really given to media. Like, let's say next year PA does decide to do awards. I don't think they're going to do a media part, if that makes sense. None of my co-commentators will ever get an award. None of my photographers or videographers will ever get mentioned. But they are the reason that you all get highlight reels. You all get amazing photography. You all get videos that just look exceptional. And for me, I've worked alongside pretty much all the media talent. I've taught pretty much all the commentators. So it's one that's close to home. For me, the media talent of the year was Josh Northeast and Kai Haywood from Josh Northeast Films. Now, if you have worked, or rather, if you played in any, Major League PPA event or any, if you played at APC, for example, these guys did all of the videography for it. Josh, I know him personally. He's a fantastic guy, genuine good egg. He also plays a ton of tournaments. He goes out and participates in a bunch of events. Give these guys a follow. Seriously, their work is elite. They are movie star quality for their video highlight reels. And I saw them work, I've been alongside them so many times behind the scenes, but to see them, ABC, the work that Kai put in was legendary. He definitely deserved a mention here. And he is someone that, if Josh ever retires or whatever, Kai will easily make his own business. He is so good. So to these fellas, well done. It's an absolute pleasure working alongside both of you. I can't wait to see what content you decide to create in 2026. Okay, let's get to the player awards. Ooh. Before we start with the player awards, I'm not doing a Masters vote. Ooh, dear, I can just picture people at home watching on their couch or people driving to work like, what? What are you talking about not doing a Masters vote? The reason simply is it's too volatile. It's just too angry, too cranky. There's too many Masters players that will rip my throat out if they don't get voted. And I've thought about it. I just can't be bothered dealing with that nonsense. So I'm not doing a Masters vote. Sorry. Simple as that. For the pros, however, we can jump into them. So for the pros, I decided to do a most improved player vote, which this was hard. For the female side, it wasn't hard. But for the male side, it was hard. Straight off the bat, for the females, let's just get it over and done with. It's Sarah Dennehy. No one even comes close. Taya Cross had an exceptional year. Aisha Dang had an exceptional year. Considering both of those ladies, didn't really play pickleball. Aisha, I think her first event she watched was the AO Slam with tennis. And then, now last year, the end of the NPL season, she was the Victorian season MVP. Like, my goodness, the growth of that young woman. She is going to be an absolute bona fide superstar. I have no doubt about it. Taya Cross, same deal. She started, I don't actually know when she started. It wasn't that long ago. And she ended up representing Australia in the Pickleball World Cup. It's just what an achievement. That's insane. Well done, Taya. Once again, another really nice person, absolutely dominant on the court. Those two were in the discussion for the MIP, but it has to be Sarah. Sarah has had a jump in development that is it's like Michael Jordan-esque. Like, she's gone from being a okay player, like okay for her standards is what I mean. Like, she's very good, to dominating Asia. Like, she won with the Boroughs, so the NPL season. She just flat out destroyed teams across the Australian pickleball scene. Like, the Boroughs absolutely dismantled everyone else. Her and Summer Delabona were terrifying to go up against. And across all three facets, like, she's a very good singles player for starters, but then her doubles game is also very good. She is going to be the number one in Australia at some point. It's just a matter of time. My most improved male player was where it was tricky. There is about 5 people you could pick. And this one, if I'm going to get anyone whinging, it's probably this pick. Who I think could have got picked in this list? Nick Ballanganaeus had an incredible year. I have a lot of time for Nicky Mal. And once again, he is an up-and-comer. He is someone that just does not care about... I remember talking to him at Gold Coast Grand Slam, and he was like, I'm the villain. People paint me in a bad light all the time, and I don't care. I love that. That's amazing. Nicky Mal, you keep doing you, mate, because you are good for this sport. Matt Kuznetsov also had an exceptional year. I called it at the start of 2025. I said Matty K is going to have a breakout year. Lo and behold, he did. He became one of the best singles players in the country. His doubles game was fantastic. Here's another one that we have the next era of men's pickleball coming through. Nicky Mal's on that list. Matty K is on that list. Josh Nipris is on that list. Another player who I have a lot of time for. I genuinely like seeing Josh on the court playing well. He is someone that, I remember talking to him at the Northern Rivers Regional Rally where he was playing with Taya Cross. And he, at that point in time, he was like, yeah, I'm feeling good. Like, I'm in good form. And then lo and behold, he went into the events following and played incredibly well. He got drafted into the Australian side for the Pickleball World Cup. I think Josh has such a bright future ahead of him. So he was definitely on the MIP list as well. But another person I want to add, and this is probably a bit of a quirky one in the MIP, was Chris Turvey. Now, Turvey had injury concerns this year, but I want to talk about what he actually achieved with injury concerns. So he, first of all, went and played in India. So he did an international run of things. He then had a chance to captain the Southeast Asia Surge for Major League Pickleball Australia in Premier. Like, how? That's just so outrageous. He then also won the Australian Pickleball Champs in men's doubles with Andy Horwich. Like, that is a very good resume for your 2025. So Turvey, I felt, despite his injury concerns, had to be brought up. He had to have an honourable mention, if you will. My most improved player, and this is going to be a controversial one, was Rob Sterling. And you're going to be like, Dylan, what are you talking about? Like, it can't be Rob. It definitely was Rob. And I find, because once again, if I go back to what has this player achieved, there is a thing in sport called the LeBron effect. So if you know of LeBron James in the NBA, if you're a player that keeps dominating, you keep being very, very good, people will eventually stop. They won't believe in how good you are. They'll start to discredit you. Now, Rob was incredible in 2024, but he is now dominating in Asia to the point that he can live in Asia and play. He is now, in my opinion, like top 3 in Australia men's, like easily. To get into that top 3 has not been broken for years. It's always been Mitchell, Joey, and George. So he was the first person to break that. Once again, my criteria this year, a lot of it has been leaning on doing things that haven't been done properly or done before. Sarah and Rob have both dominated in Asia. Arn referees heavily in Asia. You know, these guys are doing things differently, and I think for me it has heavily swayed my opinion for this year's Dill Awards. Now, Pro Players of the Year. I have statistics to back this up. Once again, there will be people that disagree with this. But I want to say, before I reveal it, my votes were based on the entire Australian pickleball scene. So, that means playing events in both PPA and NPL. If you're a player that only plays one of those leagues, your results were definitely considered. But if you're a player that dominates in both, well, that's worth its weight in gold. I've said it already in this video. I despise leagues forcing players to not play against certain players because they might represent a different league. It's just not good for the scene. So my MVPs, my players of the year, were male and female players that dominated in both forms. So the male player of the year is Joey Wild. He came second in the PPA rankings across their formats, so their scores. George Wall was number 1 for PPA. But for Joey to get second, considering his NPL obligations, he was the captain of the Brumbies. A fantastic effort. Now, I will say for my players of the year, I haven't really taken into account international representation. So someone like Amelia Schmidt, I just haven't really put into account into this. I just feel that, you know, I've mainly looked at what's at home domestically, and that's obviously typically your PPA, your MLP, and your MPL. So you could argue, you know, George had a phenomenal year, and I'm not going to disagree. I like George. I think he's great. But Joey's done it in both. He's done it in MPL, and he's done it in PPA. Now, the stats you can see there at the bottom are via the MPL website for their tournaments only. So that is their ratings across the year, as confirmed by MPL. And it's pretty much every tournament that isn't, you know, a league final or a league event. So for men's singles, Joey was second. Harrison Brown had an incredible year, and he was actually someone that I could bring up for the most improved player. Harry Brown had a very good year. Continues to be, in my opinion, he's the number 1 singles player in the country for men's, hands down. So for mixed, Joey Wild, you know, he is, he just kills people. There's just no one about it. There is only one mixed doubles team in the country that is number 1, and we all know who it is. So it's Joey and Danny easily. For men's doubles, once again, Joey was number one. Got to give this man his flowers. He has had an incredible year across 2 separate leagues. Well done to Joey. Once again, he had injury concerns this year, managed to fight through it. I just think he's had an incredible year. And to me, the stats, you can see them on the screen. Like, you can come up with an argument. You might disagree with it. But I just think at this point in time, as of the statistics, he is the player of the year for the men's. Now, for the women's, exact same train of thought. Female player that plays both PPA and NPL. And I just think there's only one really option for this. I do think in second place, I did have Summer Alabama. I do think Summer... It was actually... It's a lot closer than I originally said it would be. Summer had a very good year. I think what actually pipped her was her PPA rating. So her PPA rating was, I believe, 4th. And that's why she's got her second place. Whereas, because Summer in the MPL ratings, as you can see you will see when I change it in a sec, she she is still the queen in women's singles. I don't think anyone questions that. But winning women's doubles and women's singles, she was the top MPL player. And then in mixed, she was 3rd. So that did sting a little bit. I do think the 3rd and in mixed and the 4th in PPA has affected my opinion here for Summer. I think Summer's one of my all-time favourite players. So this was a bit of a hard one to pick, but I have to go off the evidence. My number one player for females was Danielle Townsend this year. You know, she was number 2 in PPA, which is crazy. Like the level of just the women's space in Australian pickleball is at the high end is very good. Rose Van Rieck had an incredible year with PPA. She was number 1 easily. Andy D had a very good year with PPA as well and Major League. Andy, you know, the Crocs girls, I keep talking about it. Rose, Andy, and Summer all have had phenomenal careers. And now look at them all doing very well. So but for me, Danny coming second in PPA, same as Joey. I think she's had a phenomenal run of it. And in the mixed events, you know, her and Joey they are making history right now as like Hall of Fame status level just dominance. They are on a streak that is just like it's a dynasty at this point. If they do this for another 2-3 years, they'll go down on like records of dominating Australian pickleball mixed. They might lose the occasional mixed event, but overall, look at that, 6,000 points compared to Selena, who's next, who also had a very good year. 3,000. It's not even close. And that, I do think that definitely swayed it a little bit. Her and Joey is just so strong together. Women's singles, she really worked on her singles this year. It was awesome to see. Coming from a table tennis background, singles probably wasn't comfortable for her, and she only just came third, sorry. Michaela Hayet, who was, 55 points above her, that's a great effort for Townsend to come third in that regard. And then women's doubles, she came second. So once again, an accruement across all of them. I think Danny probably just pipped Summer, but you at home might have your own opinions on this. Let me know in the comments. I think Joey and Danny, just were very solid this year and across the board deserves their praises. Now, we are slowly getting towards we're already over an hour. Well done, Dylan. We are slowly getting towards the end of this video. These are improvements that I would like to see for 2026. So, first things first, para and junior development. I already mentioned we have nothing pretty much regarding the para space. Hopefully, PA get more involved. That's all we can ask. Junior development, I mean, geez. When I was at Redcliffe, we ran tournaments for hundreds of school kids. Like, the clubs are probably leading the way here. I don't know what if there even is someone that's in charge of junior development at PA. I don't know what the go is there, but once again, it feels similar to para. It's just not a priority. I'd like to see more of that. Code of conduct. Like, do we even have it done yet? I just shouldn't even be asking this at this point. To me, that's a foundational thing. We still see continued behavioural problems across the scene. Players getting away with absolutely heinous behaviour. Referees abusing each other. Masters players absolutely just blowing up at tournaments to each other. Like, I don't know, man. I'm tired of banging this drum. We just need to grow a spine. It's simple as that. People just need to be appropriately, how do I word it? It just needs to be firm. We need just something strong so that people stop. They know they get away with it. Simple as that. And there's multiple repeat behaviors that we see just get away with it. It's, yeah, I don't know. I can't anymore with this like that. It should have been done years ago. But anyway, media still not getting paid. I know many commentators don't get paid. And to those commentators that might be watching this, the organizations that do not pay you, they will pay you what they believe you're worth. I'm sorry to say that. But if you're doing work for free, it's partially on you. You need to put your foot down. I did with Major League. I specifically walked away from them. And the problem is, at first it might seem like how do I word it? It's a good opportunity. You can get your foot in the door, right? And that's, if you're learning, that's okay. But I do feel that, videographers, photographers, I see so many photographers doing free work. It's gross. Commentators as well. You should be getting paid, guys, across all facets. It's just as simple as that. Like, know your worth, stick to it. Yeah, I'm going to leave that at that. Referees still not getting paid. I've been harping on about this all year. Only head referees are guaranteed pretty much to get paid. We saw so many angry referees at APC. Well, I don't know if it was publicly known about, but I talked to so many cranky referees at APC. We had referee drama at the end of this year. I just hope the referee space just has a positive change in 2026. I think starting to actually financially pay these referees would be a good start. These people put so much time and effort into our sport to be just treated poorly. And I know that because I had so many phone calls, messages, emails, people just sending me their stories, and it was overwhelming, man. Like the amount of people that were just, some of them were so jaded towards doing this anymore. And I asked the question in my referee video, if the refs all walk away, how does the sport look? They need to be paid. Simple as that. I'd like to see more emphasis on Div 2 and Challenger. So MPL have the Div 2, MLPA have the Challenger. I thought both, were very good. They had very good players. We need to promote them more. I think, personally, both should be broadcasted. Challenger not getting a broadcast was just a travesty. Like, their players were so diehard. They wanted to win. They had a real team camaraderie. They just need to be covered more. And same for the Div 2. I'd love to see more Div 2 players get recognition in MPL, especially the academy players that are up and coming, young superstars. Just a little bit more presence for these players that are putting in time to try and make it into the pros. I think that would be really positive. More broadcasts for Masters players. So I'm obviously heavily involved in this, but I cover the Aussie Masters with Pickleball Tournaments Australia. So we are very busy doing the broadcasts for Masters. But when I say broadcasts, it's not just me. I want other people to do broadcasts for Masters events. The MLPA Masters events not getting covered is an absolute travesty. It's why when they had that giant scheduling error, I'm not going to say it's why, but a lot of Masters players voted to end the season because they felt disenfranchised. Like, it's simple as that. They didn't feel looked after. And I know this because I talked to a lot of them. The Masters scene is beautiful when it's not angry. And I do find that if we can cover these phenomenal players, from the 40 plus onwards divisions, I just think it's good for everyone. So I'd like to see them covered more. This is a big one. The sanctioned tournament schedule needs to be out earlier. So if you have no idea what I'm referring to, Pickleball Australia released their sanctioned tournament list very late, like November, December every year for next year. I personally think it should be a year in advance. That's how pretty much every other sport operates. So we should be announcing the 2027 schedule, like this year. I think for contractors like myself, it's near impossible to prepare. For pro players, for example, it'd be very difficult to prepare. For tournament directors, it would be very difficult. It must be very difficult to prepare. For venues, there's so many things that come into it. And I think PA, we just need to release it earlier. Like, it's simple as that. I don't know. That's just one thing that we're like cavemen at. We need to get up with the times and release things well and truly in advance because there is so many businesses, so much financial, responsibility relying on these tournaments and this tournament schedule, which, as we saw with Major League, they can just go and break it anyway. So, like, we don't really have an excuse to release it so late. Finally, my final improvement that I would request, large-scale tournaments need to minimize splitting court spaces. APC's classic example. We had all the Masters players off in the boondocks, and a lot of our players didn't even know they were there. It was like, 800 players or something down there, 600, 800 players down on the back courts. No one even knew they were there. They were tucked away in their own little area. A lot of the Masters players were pissed off about it, and I understand it. They were segregated. Now, you could argue, well, we had to have so many courts because we had so many players. Fair. But I just think, once again, this Gold Coast agreement is really hindering APC. But we saw it at Vic Open. QPC decided this year to just be at Morayfield. I actually think that was a positive change. Like, playing indoors instead of Redcliffe kind of sucks. But having everyone together is the main thing. We all need to be together. I do find events that actively segregate the player base is just not healthy for anyone. So I would like to see next year that stop happening. All right, we're going to leave this video because that has gone on for a long, long time. A bit of not even a ramble. Actually, that was pretty straight to the point for all of it. But I'd like to thank you all for 2025. It's been so good this year. We've had so many amazing moments. The YouTube channel has grown steadily. Social media platforms have grown steadily. And I thank you all for the continued kind words, the, nice messages and interactions at tournaments. I talk to so many of you at tournaments. You always tell me, oh, geez, Dylan, my thoughts on this are da-da-da-da-da. And it doesn't matter if you disagree with me. It's discourse. We want to be talking about our sport. So thank you all very much. I have a gigantic 2026 coming up. Oh my goodness. I have so much big news to come your way, but I will leave this here. So thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful holiday period, whatever you believe in, for your break of the end of the year. But I look forward to seeing you on the courts in 2026 and hopefully watching more of my YouTube videos. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Thank you, everyone. This is Dylan Kimlin signing out for 2025. Thank you and have a lovely end of your year.